Hi, I'm Najella.
And I'm in Gaza.
And we're a couple from Brooklyn, New York. And we've been living abroad for 5 years now. We've been in Latin America, Asia, throughout Europe. But we're back in Brooklyn for the summer.
And this is episode 2 of our conversation series of our experiences abroad. Today, we're going to discuss why we travel and what it means to us. So we're going to dive into the first question. And the first question is, what was your primary influence on travel?
Okay. So when I think about travel, like why I travel really, I think about my parents a lot. Both my parents are from Panama. My mother was born in the US, but her family came here in the 60s. And I'm a first generation on my dad's side. He came from Panama to the US probably in the late 80s. And since I was young, I kind of had this concept that like you leave and come from another place outside the US. Like you can leave home, which is the US, and go back to your other home, which was Panama. And then since I was little, I would always go back to Panama, like either alone or with my grandmother during the summer, like all summer. Literally, I would be in Panama all summer.
Yeah.
Hot, humid. We didn't have AC. We didn't have TV in English.
And you started going since you were like, what, 6 or 7?
Alone? Or you mean the period?
Oh,
I got
period.
baptized in Panama when I was like 1. So yeah, I was always going to Panama. But alone, I used to go with this group, Navalo, that was his name. And he would take a group of us Panamanians from Brooklyn, and we would all go on the plane, and we had like a buddy system, and we would go, and like our grandparents would pick us up in Panama City. Sometimes I went alone. I didn't even go with a buddy. It would just be me and like a airport escort. The taboo of travel was removed from me since I was very little. Then I think on my own, my mother is like a wanderlust type person. She's always looking at like travel shows and reading articles and like National Geographic.
Yeah.
Or I forget which travel magazine she would read back in the day, and I would read it myself. So we kind of bonded over that since I was little. We would look at Samantha Brown and all the other shows that were on the Travel Channel at that point. So I just always wanted to leave home and explore new places. So that was my biggest influence on travel. My parents and my childhood, and just my own interests in seeing new places. When I would read a lot, I would read different books, and they would talk about these far off places. This girl's on a ship traveling the world back in the 1800s or like blah, blah, blah. And I would be like, I want to do that. I want to be an explorer traveler. So those are my influences.
So when I think about my influences on why I travel, they're similar to Naju's. They start with having parents who are immigrants or the children of immigrants. So my dad's from St. Vincent and the Grenadines. He came here when he was, I want to say 20, 21. My mom's dad is from Jamaica. I definitely always heard my dad always talking about going back home or comparing things to things back home. There's always like a narrative between like how things were here and how things were back home. I joke, like most West Indian parents in Brooklyn, they call their kids Yankees.
Oh yeah, my dad did that to me too.
My father has an accent. He never decided to like drop his accent, but maybe it wasn't a choice. But yeah, my mother's father's from Jamaica, so obviously the West Indian influence is super strong. When I think about my mother's influence on my experience with travel, it definitely is tied to her connection to Afrocentrism. But again, my mom being raised in like the 60s, 70s has had a strong influence on her in terms of like having a strong sense of self and knowing their roots to Africa and the continent. So there's always been this sense of education in terms of who I am as a young man, what my roots are in Africa, knowing my father's from St. Vincent and the Grenadines. That's definitely what had an influence on me, not just seeing myself solely as an American, but like as an African American, a West Indian American, a person from the continent. So those definitely had a strong influence on why I travel and my sense of self overall.
Question number 2. What do you get from traveling abroad as an adult?
I think what I get from traveling abroad is a sense of peace. I definitely had that instilled in me because of my father. He's from the West Indies, and obviously they move at a different pace. But my father always preached peace, like being able to find that and pursue that within your life. For me, I think traveling abroad always gives me an opportunity to shift my pace. The pace of a New Yorker is like go, 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 go. Everything is typically centered around like career and money and ambition. It's no lie that the stereotype is true. It's definitely a city that doesn't sleep. But when I get a chance to travel abroad, I think no matter where I go, the pace is always going to be slower than New York City. I haven't been to like Tokyo or like
Or Mumbai.
Yes. For me, everything sort of feels like a step down in terms of pace, and it gives me that sense of peace. The second thing is freedom. When I travel, I feel this like deep sense of freedom. I feel like not necessarily that the rules don't matter, but there's a whole different set of rules that apply, and I have to like figure out what those different rules are. It just makes me feel free. It gives me this chance to reset my identity elsewhere. And I think that the things that were instilled in me from a really young age tap into that, this idea of being freedom, this idea that this sense of home is here, but there's also a home elsewhere.
Has there been a place that made you feel a little bit more free than being home in the US?
Anytime I'm in like a tropical setting.
Oh, okay.
For me, primarily, it's typically the beach. I probably learned to swim when I was like 4 or 5. I learned to swim in the sea, which is like typical. I didn't learn to like swim formally in the pool. Like I learned to like ride the waves, and those are some of my core memories.
For me as an adult, kind of like Ngaza said, I feel free and independent. In the US, there's like certain rules and a structure, like a system that I have to abide by because I'm a citizen here. Like it's my home, it's my place of birth. I'm familiar with the labels that are placed on me, and those labels typically affect like what I will do or won't do. You know, I feel more judged here in a way, or I feel like I have to conform.
Yeah.
And I think going to a new society or a new culture abroad, I can shift myself and I can move in a different way that typically makes me feel like I'm expanding on who I am as a person. Also, the act of travel in itself is liberating, right? Like I think as a person of color, as a woman especially, the fact that I can book a ticket, I have a passport that is strong, I can get on a plane and go almost anywhere in the world, and I could do that alone.
Yeah.
And I can navigate by myself.
Yeah.
It's the most empowering feeling on earth. And it's always scary, but I always figure it out and I'm always okay. It really gives me a strong sense of self and self-confidence. Also, like I said on the first question, I'm such a curious person, and I'm constantly reading books or articles or researching a new like culture, whether it's like the root of a language or the root of this food. I have like a Rolodex in my head of places and things I want to experience. And traveling, I get to do that. It's like seeing history or seeing research in 3D.
Yeah.
In the real world. It makes things relevant, right? It makes the textbooks relevant, which I love. And sometimes what I see is very different too than what's in a textbook or the article. So that's good to dispel stereotypes and certain preconceptions that I might have of a group of people or a place. Oftentimes and not, any negative idea that I have of a person or a group of people, when I travel, they're completely like dispelled.
Oh my gosh. Can I add to that?
Yeah, please.
It's so interesting. Something that I definitely notice when we travel is that cultures collectively have something that they think about themselves as what they may identify as negative and something that they think that's positive. So I've always felt like every time I've gone to a place, the thing that's collectively negative or collectively positive isn't quite true. That's always interesting to see how a country self-identifies or how a culture self-identifies might not be the way you perceive it or experience it. And the good things might not be so good or the bad things might not be so bad.
That's a good point. Like the branding behind a place.
I'm not trying to get too specific, but I feel like
let's not do that right now.
It's super consistent that like each country somehow has something that's like, I don't really agree with that. Is the food that good? Is the transportation so amazing? Are the people that friendly? All those things sort of like come into question when you actually go there and you think with an open mind. So
I want to bring up this thing, but like it's kind of like how everyone thinks that Americans are really stupid. And I think myself too, when we moved as a couple abroad and like okay, we're leaving and we're gonna make a home elsewhere. I also carried that stigma of like, oh, Americans don't know anything, or Americans are stupid and like ignorant and uninformed.
You sort of accept what the brand is
you accept
of the country.
Like what people say about Americans. And then I think as I've lived abroad and I've had conversations with people through Europe, Asia, South America, and then people who have left their whole country of birth and been in those places, everyone is stupid all over the world. Like, there's no society that I find that is
everyone's
the most
like
intelligent or like people are stupid in certain things in certain places, right? I
want to add to that too. Also, like I think it's interesting, like the whole intelligence thing or Americans are stupid. It's also like Americans aren't cultured, and that's like such an interesting thing because America, in comparison, is like 20 countries.
It's insane.
Like our states are so gigantic. You can go scuba diving and skiing. You can be like on the Pacific side or the Atlantic side. So vast.
And also I think what I've observed is that every country contributes different things to the world. Oh, that's the next video.
Yeah.
Why leaving the US has made us appreciate it more.
Oh my gosh.
That could be a good one.
That's a great idea. So let's jump into question 3. What impact has leaving our place of birth had on us? So when I think about leaving my place of birth or living elsewhere, my mindset, again, because my father's from St. Vincent, has always been like to maybe live 6 months here and then 6 months here. It would have always been to sort of like have a home in the States and also have a home back home. That was like the concept of what being abroad meant to me. It was like the ideal. 6 months on, 6 months off. When I think about our relationship and how that's definitely had an influence on me, I never imagined like Euro tours and hopping from country to country and like living here, then living there. Sometimes I feel like I'm on her fairy tale journey. Like all the books that she read as a kid, The Dreams of Ireland, or like what Scotland is like, or like England or whatever.
Or me trying to like get like a work permit for every country. Cause I'm like, no, I want to like live here. I want to live here. I want to try this. I want to do that. I want to know what it's like.
So definitely I get brought along that like fairy tale ride. And my idea of travel is like never what I thought it would be. It was never what I anticipated. It wasn't my plan. But to be fair, there's so many things that come from that. And there's so many new interests that I have from being brought along that journey. So I always tell Nadia, I'm like, I can't believe I never imagined it. She's like, I've been imagining this since I was 6 years old.
Yeah. Well, he's funny because he's also taught me, though, like slow travel. And when we first met, I wanted to go to as many countries as possible. Like, this is a point of contention, but when we moved to Thailand, I thought we were going to Thailand for like a couple of weeks, and then we were about to hop around Southeast Asia. And he had a whole plan in his head that I didn't know about until it was a decision-making point.
Yeah.
He was like, no, I want to live here. And I was like, what the hell?
So yeah, to jump into the question even further, the impact that it's really had on me leaving is like cultural objectivity. That sense of objectivity that like you aren't the center and that like the things that you're focusing on aren't the focus for everyone else is very freeing. Your main character energy gets like shrunk. You're definitely not the main character.
Leaving my place of birth has made me feel like I can always escape a bad situation. If I feel like my physical safety is a threat, the fact that I could leave and potentially find a home or relocate to somewhere else in the whole world, it just makes me feel so safe. I think a lot about African-American artists during the 30s to 60s, singers and writers who left the US and moved to Paris or other places in the world because they felt like they could be artists there and they could be free, they could express themselves, they were more accepted in society. Like James Baldwin, for example, Josephine Baker. I feel like those people. Okay, time for Would You Rather question. All right, first one, pay attention.
All right.
Would you rather have unlimited first class plane tickets to a single continent?
Okay.
Or would you rather be able to travel anywhere in the world with free accommodations, but only by car, boat, or on foot?
Damn. Okay, but if I chose a continent that was really big, then I could travel within that continent, right?
Yeah, but I mean, you're limited to that continent for the rest of your life.
Oh my gosh. First class tickets? Yeah, because the radiation. I'm gonna go with option 2.
Number 2?
Yeah, I'm gonna go option 2. What about you?
I'm gonna go option 2 as well.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Wow, you
I gotta respect myself. I can't be limited to one place or continent.
But what if
That's
it takes you
impossible.
forever to get there
It's
and you
okay.
never go?
You taught me slow travel.
Oh, okay.
I'll
But what if
just-
you never go? What if you like,
I'll just find the best carrier ships, the best, I don't know, do I get paid? Do they pay for free accommodations? What kind of accommodations? No, I think I still would go option 2.
Okay, option 2. All right, let's go on to the second question. Would you rather have the ability to see 10 minutes into the future or 10 years into the future? What are you going with?
10 minutes into the future or 10 years into the future? Oh my gosh.
Which superpower?
Jeez. Either give me anxiety.
Really? Wait, so you don't even want the superpowers?
Anything future oriented is like doesn't work for my brain. Hold on, let me think about it.
Come on, 10 minutes or 10 years? Which would you prefer?
I would do 10 years into, I didn't mean that. I would do 10 minutes into the future.
Okay.
10
Why?
years, that's like, a lot of people can die in 10 years. And I don't want to deal with the trauma of like knowing who's in my life or not. That makes me so sad.
That's fair.
I don't want to think about that.
10 minutes. 10 minutes would give me an anxiety attack because
Wow, we're so different.
I know if I had to keep thinking about what's going to happen every 10 minutes, I would not be able to have like long-term planning. So if in 10 years, I don't know who's going to die or if,
You can plan for it.
God forbid, I was going to
yeah,
die, like,
it's like blank.
I can plan, I can like do some, and then you always get to see 10 years. So at least I can always know, I'm like, I got to anticipate what needs to happen. And
Not
it gives me
interested.
like a good, hardworking plan to like lay out. So.
Hence the pros of being together, but also the challenges that we overcome daily.
Do you-
Short term, long term.
Yeah, long term is much easier. That actually makes me feel calm. Yay! All right, see you in the next one. Peace, peace, peace.
Okay.
I'm trying to get.
See you in the next one.
See you in the next one.
Bye.
Peace, peace, peace. Bye.
Boy, what is going on with you today?
Y'all just gonna just straight up just do your crazy, no?
Yeah, that's not. Babe.
Come on. Yeah, but it's like, I'm over here. You can't just eat over here right now. Give me a second to finish my name. So say we're jumping into Would You Rather.
We have to say jumping in every time.
Did I say jumping in before?
You did. Yeah, you say it a lot. It's funny.
Look at the camera. Hold on, let's end it at the same time. Ready, ready? 3, 2, 1.